Hello everyone, we are here in Assen. It was very windy, it's very wet, but we are thrilled to be here because it's a premiere. For the very first time, the DTM is racing here at the TT circuit in Assen. And it's a very tricky course, but the man who managed to get pole is Marco Wittmann. The most tricky part, I guess, about this circuit are the four corners, one of them being the fastest in the DTM calendar with 275 kilometers per hour. So how would you judge it? How tough is this circuit?
It's actually pretty cool, I have to say, especially the very fast corner, the fastest in the race calendar. It's just stunning. It makes good fun. Also, Sector 2 is very fast. You need a nice flow, you need a good car setup. It makes fun, definitely.
All right, and I guess starting from P1 is the best. So best of luck, Marco. Thank you so much. And now here's your commentator.
Thank you very much. Yes, we've had glorious weather conditions here in Assen, in Holland, the Netherlands. Welcome up until now. And it's teeming down with rain. Would you believe it? To be fair, it's been predicted that today was always going to be a tricky day when it came to weather conditions. Of course, it's going to be tricky for those drivers as well with no experience of this extraordinary Assen circuit. 4.555 kilometers, 18 challenging turns, 6 of them left-handers, 12 of them are right-handers. Top speed, factor this in, at some 275 kilometers per hour, and each and every one of our 18 drivers per lap are going to have to change gear 32 times. It's going to be a real test this afternoon, one that we're really looking forward to. 55 minutes plus 1 lap of DTM race action to come here at the Assen TT circuit. You're very welcome to join us. And well, you can see the preparations going on ahead of the start of the race. Qualifying was quite dramatic. Marco Wittmann, we've already heard from. Pole position, 125.4 from Marco Wittmann. René Rast will be joining him on the front row of the grid. Then it's Loic Duval, and a very good qualifying from the WRT Audi driver, Pietro Fittipaldi. I spoke to him just before going to the grid, and Pietro very much looking forward to the race. We will see what he is able to deliver in the 55 minutes plus 1 lap. He has been to Assen before. He tested here some 4 years ago. Did that give him the opportunity to learn the circuit perhaps a bit better than some of the others? Well, perhaps so. There you can see inside the Robin Frijns car with an oil problem, and still working on the Robin Frijns car. The car had to be worked on in parc fermé conditions, so his qualifying lap time was taken away. As we look at Jake Dennis, we go back down to the track, and Verena.
And I'm here with the championship leader, René Rast, starting in P2 today. It's the very first time you're all in Assen, so how did you prepare?
Yeah, it's even more difficult now with the rain. We haven't driven in the rain before. We just did basically dry running. So now it's raining, it's drizzling a bit. We are on red tires and there's more rain coming. So it's not going to be very easy. We did 1 lap now to the grid. Could get a feel for the car, but it's obviously not enough. So let's see the first laps, how they develop.
But let me remind you, you were asking for rain, so you've got to be happy now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously when you're starting P2 in the dry, it was would be less risky. But let's see.
It's going to be an exciting race, so best of luck. Thank you very much, René. And now to the commentator.
Well, René got what he wanted in terms of rain. He doesn't appear to be all that pleased about it now. Danny Juncadella, his qualifying time then at 1:26.6 means that he's going from P14 on the grid. He's the best of the R Motorsport Aston Martin drivers. And look at that rain come down now in front of many spectators that have made their way here to Assen. Good news is that weather conditions for tomorrow are supposed to be somewhat improved, but it really is coming down now, and well, that's going to change the shape of this race, I feel sure. I mentioned that it's 4.55 kilometers and those 18 turns. The bit that I find absolutely intriguing is just ahead of the start-finish straight, where you've got a sequence of turns 16, 17 and 18, which is a real chicane going into the start-finish straight. Should there be a safety car? And of course, in the DTM, we have the Indy-style restart where the cars line up side by side for any restart after a safety car. That would be very interesting indeed. Team principal of AB Sportsline, Thomas Beermeyer, then making his way down the pit lane with hood up, of course, to protect himself from the rain. And there we can see Jamie Green then. Jamie Green, of course, had a very good time of it at the Norris Ring, and he is here in the Netherlands to compete in DTM here at Assen. Let's go back down to Verena on the grid once again.
So one man who was really looking forward to this race is Robin Frijns, because of course it is his home race, but very bad luck for the Dutchman, because as you can see, no car here. In fact, he's still in the box and the mechanics are still working on his car, and then he has to join the formation lap, and afterwards he will park here to then start the race. So very unlucky for him, but let's see what he can do from the very last position in just a bit. So now back to the commentator. Woo, it's terrible weather.
I'm glad you've got a brolly, that's all I can say. Do you know what? Robin Frijns and Luck are not bedfellows. He comes here having taken a win in Formula E in New York just last weekend, and he said to me on Thursday, hoping that his luck had changed. Well, it doesn't seem to be the case, does it? The car being worked on still as we speak. This is Philipp Eng then, qualifying time 1:26.056 for Philipp Eng. Means that Philipp Eng is going from P9 on the grid. There is his car. Philipp Eng, of course, a race winner in DTM, hugely talented driver, as are all the drivers in the DTM, as the laptop is being part protected by the umbrella. I can see some raindrops on the keyboard. I hope that doesn't affect it. Philipp Eng then with Joel Eriksson alongside him. And there you can see once again the Philipp Eng car. Just ahead of them, another couple of BMWs with Bruno Spengler and the young South African Sheldon van der Linde. As we look now at Bruno Spengler. Of course, he had a very good time of it in Norris Ring as well. That short circuit that we use, that brilliant street circuit. And René Rast then really celebrating there by taking a victory and, of course, becoming the new Mr. Norris Ring, taking that title away from Jamie Green by dint of just how many victories have been taken at the street circuit. So well done to Bruno Spengler. He won race 2 of the Norris Ring. Sheldon van der Linde then, the Shell BMW M4 DTM. Good qualifying from Sheldon. A 1:25.8 means that he goes from P7 on the grid. So Sheldon van der Linde, what can he do from there? Potentially a danger man. Just looking out of our commentary studio window, the rain is coming down more than ever now. It really is teeming down. Nico Muller. He goes from P6, so a third row start for Nico Muller then in the number 51 car. So Nico Muller, who has taken a win this season, a couple of P2s and a third place as well. And Nico Muller must fancy his chances potentially going from the third row of the grid. Some tape being applied to the car there that you can just see as Arno Sensen is well protected against the weather, and the team principal of Audi Sport Team Rosberg making his way down the pit lane. We like going down to the grid by virtue of the fact that Verena has an umbrella, so let's go back down to her once again.
Yeah, so one man who's already in the dry is Daniel Juncadella. Daniel, best Aston Martin in P14. Usually if you're far back in the grid, you can go all the way to the front, especially now with rain, with the terrible weather. What do you think? What can you do in this race?
I mean, we have more chances, of course, with these conditions. So pretty encouraging for us, pretty motivating, because now the guys that have to worry are the guys that already did a good qualifying. So we can only fight forward, and this is going to give us a few more options, we think. So let's see how it pans out.
But the track here is already very slippery as it is, and now with the rain, I mean, it's pouring. It's going to be tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we're going to see people trying too many things, doing mistakes, so we have to be calm and take our chances and try to extract the maximum of the conditions, the situations, and we'll see where we stand.
All right, you go for it, Danny. Thank you so much. Best of luck. And now to the commentator.
The rain has morphed into hail now. Would you believe it? It really is appalling conditions. Yeah, enough to put your hand through your hair, I should think. René Rast then. I've got an easy job in comparison to perhaps one of those grid girls. I'm in the dry. René Rast, Marco Wittmann, Lloyd Duval, Pietro Fittipaldi, they've all got to perform in the rain. And there is our pole sitter, Marco Wittmann then. Two-time DTM champion, awesome driver and awesome talent, and he's put himself in the best possible position with regard. You can see the hail look bouncing off the top of Marco Wittmann's car. He's put himself in the best possible position with regards to where he starts. Of course, he's 125.4 enough to give him pole position, and crucially, of course, giving him 3 points as well, because in qualifying, the top 3 places, you get 3, 2, 1 points. For 1, 2, 3 in qualifying. So Wittmann from Rast, then it's Lloyd Duval, Fittipaldi, Glock, Muller, van der Linde, Spengler, Eng and Eriksson, the first 5 rows. And that's the way it looks, and that's what it looks like from our helicopter. an exciting race in prospect. Assen then. Famed, of course, for the TT circuit. Some 68,000 residents and a DTM premiere in 2019. Therefore, no victories for any of the DTM brands. Welcome to the Cathedral of Speed, where you pass through the Tunnel of Glory. And there was a fantastic street demonstration on Thursday evening, attended by thousands and thousands of race fans to enjoy the donuts put on by the DTM stars that took part in that. And what a great event that was. It was a precursor to the 2 races to come this weekend. We always anticipated the potential for rain on Saturday, but expected it to be dry on Sunday. That is the prediction. But today it's rain, it's hail, it's whatever you can throw at us. Well, those guys have got to deal with it. So Wittmann, Rast going from the front row of the grid. Loic Duval and Pietro Fittipaldi going from the second row. Start is going to be behind the safety car. For safety reasons, of course, of these conditions, the start is going to be behind the safety car. Well, do you know what? The way things look currently, we're not going to need those slick tyres, but this is great news indeed. The team have worked so hard on the Robin Frijns car that Robin Frijns makes his way to the end of the pit lane. And when the safety car leads the cars away, Robin Frijns is going to be able to take part in the race, which is really good news indeed. Good to see that the team at ABT have worked so hard on the Robin Frijns car, and there it is parked up in the pit lane. And whilst disappointing for him with regards to the car being worked on in parc fermé conditions, and therefore his lap time from quali taken away, he, of course, will be one that will probably be quite pleased about these weather conditions, because it's going to really mix up the order potentially. Here comes the grid in full for you. Marco Wittmann, P1, René Rast. Championship points leader goes from P2. Followed by Loic Duval, and a very good qualifying for the WRT driver Pietro Fittipaldi. Timo Glock and Nico Muller are on the third row of the grid. Timo could be a danger man from there. Then it's Sheldon van der Linde and Bruno Spengler going from P7 and P8. Philipp Eng and Joel Eriksson, well, they share the fifth row of the grid, P9 and P10. Jonathan Aberdeen and Jamie Green are on the sixth row, P11 and P12 respectively. Then it's Mike Rockefeller and the best of the R Motorsport Aston Martin Vantage DTM cars, with Danny Juncadella ahead of Paul de Resta and Ferdinand Habsburg. And then Jake Dennis and, of course, Robin Frijns starting effectively from the pit lane. So the start is going to be behind the safety car as we get this heli shot of this extraordinary circuit. 4.542 kilometres, 55 minutes plus 1 lap is the predicted race duration. That can change. If there is a safety car period in the race, then the race can be extended. So all eyes then on the safety car. The safety car lights are on. The safety car will be deployed. Will it be for 1 lap or 2 laps? That is down to race control to make that decision, dependent upon the track conditions that the drivers find on their formation lap. So Loic Duval then in the number 28 car going from P3 on the grid. Loic Duval, of course, has taken a podium this year. It was at P3 that he took in Misano. So all the cars on the Hankook wet weather tyres. And the rain lights are on, and that's a great shot of everyone ready to get away. The wettest race since the Red Bull Ring 2015. Certainly is. We had rain, we had hail, and you can see it's still bucketing down now. So these conditions are going to be very challenging. We are some 15 seconds away from the official start of the race, which will be behind the safety car. The clock will start ticking down, and the race will have effectively started as the cars are led away by the safety car. So this could play into the hands of Aston Martin, of course, and Danny Juncadella alluded to that, and perhaps give them an opportunity to take some places and to take advantage of the very challenging conditions. So the cars roll away then behind the safety car, and the race has effectively started. At the top left-hand side of your screen, you can see the clock is ticking down, so the 55-minute race duration has started. All the cars will have to pass before Robin Frijns will be allowed out of the pit lane, and of course he will join the what's called the crocodile behind the safety car. So good work by the team then for getting Robin Frijns back out following that what we are given to understand was an oil problem during qualifying. So there you can see the Timo Glock car, and I mentioned he could be a danger man going from P5 on the grid. But in these conditions, an awful lot can change. You just saw the Jake Dennis number 76 car. He, for my money, has been the one that has really shone in terms of the R Motorsport Aston Martin. And of course, they could perform better in these wet and cooler conditions because they are, and it's renowned that they are, in comparison to Audi and to BMW, easier on the tyres perhaps than Audi or BMW, so that could really help Aston Martin as well. So we're running through the grid once again for you as we take our trip around the circuit behind the safety car. The race has effectively started and the rain continues to fall. On board with Rennie Rast then, who's making adjustments to his brake bias. That yellow lever you can see right in the middle of the cockpit there adjusts the percentage of braking force to the front and to the rear. That's what he was adjusting. And you could see Rennie making adjustments to that, and it's not uncommon to see drivers make adjustments even during the course of a lap. It's perhaps going to be less prevalent now in these conditions, but certainly during dry weather racing, they're making adjustments to the brake bias all the time because the fuel load goes down, the tyre wear increases, of course, and therefore it's necessary to change the bias on your brakes. Philipp Eng, then, we're on board with now, the BMW Team RMR driver. Oh, and the back end of the car just kicking out then as he gave it a footful of throttle. You can see he's in first gear now and weaving from side to side, really rather vigorously. Philipp Eng then behind Bruno Spengler ahead of him. Whoa, and again, great time for us to be on board with Philipp Eng then as he lights up the rear tyres, trying to generate some temperature. Of course, the wet weather tyres are completely and fully grooved. They behave in a completely different way to the slick tyres. And of course, another consideration is the visibility that the drivers are going to have when the safety car comes in. Because unless you are Marco Wittmann right at the front of the pack, then you can see how much spray is being picked up by the cars already. And you can almost feel the vibration from the cars here in the comms booth, the most powerful DTM cars ever. There is
would you expect that it's drivable like that?
So Jamie Green having a conversation with his engineer then about why the safety car is going so slow. And they really have slowed up and stacked up. Dr. Florian Kamelger then, the boss of R Motorsport, and Aston Martin is there, and we're on board with Danny Juncadella, who's the best of his drivers with regards to qualifying, and good to be on board with that Aston Martin car. And Danny Juncadella onto the BMW pit wall now, and we remain behind the safety car. Wonder if the safety car is going to come in at the end of this lap. No indication yet on our message screen that that is going to be the case, but you could already hear that Jamie Green was saying, why are we going so slow? Whether that was alluding to the fact, look, come on, it's wet, we know that. We are all highly professional drivers, let's go racing. So lights still flashing on the safety car, and they're into the BMW garage there. Conversations going on with regards to the doubtless the weather conditions that we have at the moment. To the very right-hand side of your picture is Rudolf Dietrich, who is the head of motorsport vehicle development for BMW. So, with the safety car going as slow as it is, what impact is that having in terms of the tyres? Because they're not able to generate any temperature into the tyres, and that's why the vigorous weaving that you're seeing is being done literally from one extreme of steering lock to the other. So the cars are making their way through turn 12 now. Safety car is certainly not going to come in at the end of this lap because the safety car is too far around the lap. And the final chicane, of course, where I'm saying that's going to be hugely entertaining if there's a safety car in the race, is very tricky because you have to take a bit of the curb in and out as well. And, of course, that plays havoc with the tyres also. We're perhaps going to see more of that potentially tomorrow in the dry weather conditions, when perhaps the tyres will be more vulnerable to taking too much curb. So for the third lap of asking then, we remain behind the safety car. Still not hearing any further radio traffic. Well, the pit exit has now been closed, which makes me think that perhaps this will be the final lap behind the safety car, but that's, you know, only supposition on my part. I've got no official announcement on that at all. So Marco Wittmann is leading the race. Bart Mampay, the team principal of BMW Team RBM, looks on from the pit wall. The rain has not abated at all. Wittmann leads, and the safety car is going to come in this lap. So there are not many things I get right, but I really felt that we've done enough now behind the safety car. So it will be the responsibility of Marco Wittmann then to choose how he goes, and the safety car will disappear, and Marco Wittmann will try and want to get away from René Rast if he possibly can. René Rast, of course, is going to try and anticipate when Marco Wittmann is going to give it an absolute football. Lights still flashing on the safety car, but they will go off momentarily. So, Marco Wittmann from René Rast, Loic Duval, Pietro Fittipaldi, Timo Glock, Nico Müller, Sheldon van der Linde, Bruno Spengler, Philipp Eng, and Joel Eriksson. It's going to be a very exciting first lap, first race lap proper, as it were. We have had three behind the safety car. You can see René Rast and Loic Duval and all the other drivers now beginning to think about really weaving hard. So the pit entrance is where the safety car will head to. We'll peel off into the pit lane. And there you can see a very good crowd here. And there you can see that the safety car lights have at last gone out. So good vantage points for many of the spectators here to enjoy the race action. Expecting even more people to be here tomorrow. The weather will have played a part, there's no question about that. So look at Marco Wittmann then stacking them all up. René Rast is remaining poised, look, ready to accelerate as soon as Marco Wittmann does as well, so that he can try and stick with him, and Loic Duval will try and do the same as Marco Wittmann now gives it a footfall. And René Rast chases him. So there, to the left-hand side of your picture is the pit in. As Marco Wittmann then goes through this chicane. No overtaking, of course, until they pass the safety car line. And the race is on proper as Marco Wittmann, Loic Duval dives out of the spray off the back of the René Rast car. So Wittmann leads from René Rast. Wittmann runs quite a bit wide. Who's going to be prepared to take a gamble and really go for it here? Look at Robin Frijns already, having passed two cars. And René Rast is challenging Marco Wittmann for the lead of the race, the rain-affected race. None of the drivers have got much experience of this Assen circuit all the way around the outside. René Rast, no, he didn't have the grip available to him. Marco Wittmann knows that he's got to defend because René Rast, the championship leader, is baying for the lead of this race. Around has gone Sheldon van der Linde. Here comes René Rast on the inside of Marco Wittmann. Marco does not yield. Oh, this is a fantastic fight at the front then between René Rast and Marco Wittmann. Again, René puts his car to the inside. Marco goes and carries more speed around the outside. So for the moment, wherever René is putting that car, Marco is wise to it and is defending. He runs wide. That allows René to get a little bit closer. That's Daniel Juncadella out of the race, and where that car is situated, it's a safety car. So the safety car is deployed. So we had a safety car start, and now we've got a safety car again. Now, I don't think Danny was punted. I think there's a problem with the car, and the car has given up the ghost, and where he's parked that up means that the safety car has had to be deployed. Well, no sooner have we had the safety car in than the safety car is out again. And there you can see Bruno Spengler bouncing over the curbs. Now, was this Sheldon van der Linde going round? Yes, Sheldon was actually tagged by Bruno Spengler. So that in replay is why we saw the Sheldon van der Linde car pointing in the wrong direction. It actually been tagged by Bruno Spengler. So the Danny Juncadella car had lights on before stopping. So whether there was the car had completely cut out, and that's why Danny Juncadella has ground to a halt. That's a great shame. Incidentally, Robin Frijns already made his way up to P14, having got past all the Aston Martin cars. We're on board with Bruno Spengler here. There you can see just how challenging visibility is. Now, and Bruno Spengler is under investigation, which presumably is for the tag on his BMW brand mate Sheldon van der Linde. What I'm really interested in here, and I'm keeping an eye on the timing screen, is whether it will be an Indy restart, or whether they'll think that the conditions are just not susceptible to that, and that they will have to go behind each other. So there's the safety car. Well, we could see the Juncadella car being taken away, and therefore the safety car actually should be able to come in at the conclusion of this lap, I would think. So there is Bruno Spengler under investigation for the tag on Sheldon van der Linde. I'm guessing at that, from seeing it from that angle, that actually perhaps he was backed up a little bit there by Philipp. Bruno was understeering. Here we can see it again. At this point, probably Bruno couldn't dial out of it. Very difficult to call when you're not actually in the car, and no, absolutely not. No Indianapolis restart, according to my screen. It looked like René Rast was going to go right alongside Marco Wittmann then, just for a moment, but there's going to be no Indy-style restart. The drivers will have been given that communication, so it is going to be one by one restart, more traditional style restart, if you like, from a safety car intervention. It'll be interesting to see whether the race duration will be increased as a consequence of that safety car intervention. We will see. As from the helicopter we can see the cars are about to effectively start the race all over again, and René Rast was looking very, very mean up against Marco Wittmann. Will he be able to re-challenge once again as we do go back racing? It's DTM here in the Netherlands, in Assen. Oh, big off moment for Marco Wittmann, the race leader. That will have cost him some valuable time. René Rast wasn't quite close enough to be able to take huge advantage of it. But a number of the cars are really sliding through turn number one, and Mike Rockenfeller having a go here as well, as he's got Joel Eriksson on his outside, and Mike Rockenfeller's going to go through on Joel Eriksson to pick up P10 potentially. No, he doesn't. And look, Rast is on the back of Wittmann already. Nico Müller has put himself past Timo Glock. On board with René Rast then, as he's chasing down the race leader Marco Wittmann. The back end of the car looking very twitchy, the BMW of Marco Wittmann. Pietro Fittipaldi trying to defend against Nico Müller, and Nico Müller now on the inside of Pietro Fittipaldi. Timo Glock is coming back into this. So Timo Glock retakes that position that was taken from Nico Müller just a few moments ago. Here comes Nico Müller, take 3. So this is the fight that's going on for P4. Pietro Fittipaldi is P4, Timo Glock is P5, Nico Müller is P6. So Fittipaldi doing a good job here to defend from Timo Glock currently. But Timo looks very lively. Whilst all this is going on, René Rast still has not been able to find a way past Marco Wittmann yet. And as you can see, Marco Wittmann just beginning to stretch his legs a little bit. But this is the real fight that's going on. Behind Pietro Fittipaldi is Timo Glock, then it's Nico Müller. And as I said, this is for P4. And Fittipaldi could be vulnerable going into turn number 1. Ignore the graphics which say safety car in this lap, it's already come in. Nico Müller then having a look around the outside of Timo Glock, but runs so wide, but carries so much momentum. So he carried so much speed there. Bruno Spengler gets a drive-through penalty and takes that drive-through penalty immediately because I can see him through my commentary studio window. Müller up on the inside of Timo Glock as he understeers off into the gravel. He needs to keep his foot in here, otherwise the car will be beached. So Timo does manage to do that. He'll get back out onto the track, but of course he'll drag a load of gravel out onto the track as well. So Timo, of course, there you can see it was just understeer. There was nothing Timo could do about that. He'd been pushing and pushing and chasing hard with Nico Müller and Pietro Fittipaldi. And in the end, his want of trying means that he ran very wide and ends up going through the gravel trap. So at that point, Timo was no more than a passenger. But he did keep his foot in and managed to keep the car going. So Wittmann has got 1.2 seconds over René Rast. Then it's Loic Duval who's got a similar margin behind René Rast, and they're a full 4 seconds ahead of Pietro Fittipaldi, who's running in P4. Of course, Pietro was busy defending against both Nico Müller and Timo Glock. There's Loic Duval, right through this chicane sequence then, before the start-finish straight. René Rast desperately trying to find something to get on terms with Marco Wittmann as they cross the timing line. It's a 1.5 second margin between the two of them for P1 and P2. So Wittmann, Rast, Duval, Müller, Fittipaldi. In comes Jamie Green and Robin Frijns. Mandatory pit stop time already.
Spengler is in the track as well. He stopped, I think.
Also in, Sheldon van der Linde, Jake Dennis. A whole raft of cars coming in now. Green, Frijns, van der Linde, Dennis, Habsburg, De Resta, and Spengler. They're stacking them up at the Aston Martin. Look, this is a strategy that's gone horribly wrong for our motorsport, because Paul De Resta was held there because Ferdinand Habsburg and Jake Dennis were already in there, in the box, so there was absolutely no room or anywhere to go for Paul De Resta. That will have compromised. Now, this was Bruno Spengler. So that is Bruno's second stop, because the first time we saw him in the pit lane was for his drive-through penalty, and now he's come in for his mandatory stop. Still out there, Marco Wittmann, René Rast, Loic Duval, Nico Müller, Pietro Fittipaldi, Philipp Eng, Jonathan Aberdeen, Joel Eriksson, Mike Rockefeller, and Timo Glock. They are yet to stop. Danny Juncadella, of course, you can see from the graphics on the left-hand side of your screen, we have sadly lost with what we think is an electrical issue with his Aston Martin R Motorsport Vantage DTM car. So De Resta lost 33 seconds in that pit stop. Push to pass has now been enabled. 33 seconds is a huge amount of time to lose. Really, really odd strategy call. Here's Mike Rockefeller then into the pit lane. Mike Rockefeller in the number 99 car then. Mike Rockefeller, 33 seconds is a huge amount of time to lose. Really, really odd strategy call. Here's Mike Rockefeller then into the pit lane. Mike Rockefeller in the number 99 car then. Mike Rockefeller in the number 99 car then. as the Audi Sport Team Phoenix wait to receive Mike Rockefeller's car into the grid box. Passes our commentary position here, right above the pit lane. The team go to work, and fresh set of wets go onto the Mike Rockefeller car. And he is released in 6.2 seconds. 6.2 seconds for Mike Rockefeller. Meantime, we're on board with René Rast, who has clawed 5/10 back on Marco Wittmann. And now looks to be clawing a little bit more, because the Marco Wittmann car is well within sight now of René Rast. Mike Rockefeller rejoins, following his mandatory stop. And 8 of the cars have made their mandatory stop. And there is Jamie Green, Robin Frijns. They too have also stopped. Conditions really are awful in terms of visibility for each and every one of the drivers. Let's see it from Robin Frijns' onboard perspective then, looking through that windscreen. Just dives out of the Jamie Green spray to kind of see where he needs to go. There is Loic Duval. Loic is in turn now being chased a little bit by Nico Müller. René Rast gets very sideways on the middle sector of that chicane. And here you can see Loic Duval and Nico Müller. Nico Müller is really beginning to reel in Loic Duval now. On board with Philipp, who's running in P6, as Jonathan Aberdeen comes in for his mandatory stop. And that is happening right below us. And Philipp as he gives it a footful. As we can see, Danny Juncadella there, bitterly disappointed that he's out of the race. And, well, great shame for Danny Juncadella. Right. The noise you can hear is the Jonathan Aberdeen car being released from the pit lane, as here comes Nico Müller on Loic Duval. All the way around the outside for Nico Müller as he takes that P3 place away from Loic Duval. Well, Loic Duval, in response, decides to completely shortcut the turn. Doesn't gain any advantage from that at all. And I was about to say that many drivers are avoiding the curves so as not to spin. Well, he just went straight on. Okay. Hard to control these cars in these conditions. Let me take nothing away from the skill of these drivers. Extraordinary. And doing a very, very good job in what are extremely challenging conditions. Marco Wittmann then maintaining that 1.4 second margin between himself and René Rast, and multi-Le Mans winner here, Tom Kristensen, as you can see, he's raced many races in challenging conditions. Danny Juncadella regrettably out of the race. Let's hear from him.
Yeah, what a big shame, Danny. What happened? It looked like your car just didn't function anymore. What was the problem?
Yeah, I mean, the formation laps were fine. I was feeling really normal, everything was normal, and the grip level was pretty okay on the track, even if there was a lot of wet patches. And when we did the restart, I went full throttle, and the engine was misfiring. And in turn 1, I had a big bog from the engine, the strange noise, and I think we still don't know, but I think one cylinder broke, and there was a lot of oil or fuel under the car. So I just had to stop the car. Well, the car stopped by itself, and that's a short end to our day, but these things you cannot control, and missed opportunity, but it's how it is sometimes. Tomorrow at least we have another day with 2 races.
Bad luck today, but just one more quick question. In regards to the visibility, explain to us how tough it is.
I mean, it was difficult to see, but it's the usual thing, you know, when it's raining so much. The further back you are, the harder it is, but you have to live with it, and it's part of the game.
Tomorrow's a new day. Thank you very much, Danny Juncadella. Back to you.
So Danny Juncadella then, fairly terminal issue with the engine then, which is what did for his race, which is a great shame. Did the very best he could in terms of qualifying. So Danny Juncadella then an early casualty, as Jamie Green now taking a look at the outside of Jonathan Aberdeen. Both Jamie Green and Aberdeen, of course, have been in, and Jonathan there appearing to take liberties with track limits as he really shortcutted that turn, I think. I think the race controller probably being a little bit more lenient with regards to track limits because of the weather conditions. However, Jonathan, that may have been taking the mickey a little bit. Right, Wittmann, we're 2.3 seconds over René Rast. He's just set the fastest lap of the races, Marco Wittmann, and we're on board with Robin Frijns, who's made it up to P12 ahead of him. The car of Jamie Green, as you can see, and also the car of Jonathan Aberdeen. And Robin Frijns is looking lively here as in comes Loic Duval now, having lost out on that P3 place. Loic Duval comes in now for his mandatory stop. So, Loic making his way down the pit lane then. And pulls into his box as the team go to work on that car. The Audi Sport Team Phoenix engineers working hard on the Loic Duval car. We've seen a 6.2. Well, we've seen a 7.
So you will be 2 seconds in front of Rocky, virtually P4. Keep pushing now.
So in virtual terms, P4 for Loic Duval. And he's on his way out of the pit lane now. And here comes Mike Rockenfeller. Mike Rockenfeller now into turn number 1. Mike Rockenfeller, one of the earlier stoppers, you will recall. As René Rast takes just a few tenths out of the lead time from Marco Wittmann. Is this him trying to mount a bit of a challenge? Some wildlife here decides that the best place to be is not going to be in front of that Paul di Resta car. And the hare makes haste its escape to the grass. So early stoppers. The strategy doesn't seem to have worked at this stage. Nico Müller now setting her fastest lap, a 1:51.727. Now, the rain, insofar as we can tell, is still coming down. Nico Müller might be the man to watch here. Here comes Marco Wittmann and René Rast. And here comes Nico Müller then, running in P3 currently. And as he crosses the timing line, he's 8 seconds down on Marco Wittmann. But he just did a 1:51.312, so he was 2 tenths quicker than Marco Wittmann and 4 tenths quicker than René Rast. So Müller could be one to watch here. What have we got? 28 minutes of the race remaining, plus 1 lap, assuming we don't get the race duration increased. This is Timo Glock and Joel Eriksson, and Joel Eriksson putting himself past Timo Glock, or is he? Because here comes Timo Glock again, this in replay. Now, of course, the last time Timo was overtaken, he then took the place back and then ran off into the gravel. No such mistakes this time from Timo Glock, who makes it stick and stays ahead of Joel Eriksson. So some huge wheel spin, and this is the Philipp Eng car. Philipp Eng on the outside of Pietro Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi yet to stop. So too Philipp Eng. So Philipp Eng moves himself up to P4 now. And Philipp Eng then, who's a good 6 or 7 seconds down on Nico Müller. But Philipp Eng, now he has got past the Fittipaldi car. You can see that the BMW is looking pretty good for Philipp Eng. So there is the Timo Glock car. Timo has been involved in a couple of really good overtakes and some good defending as well. And Timo Glock now through that sector quicker than anybody. Although that's just been beaten by Jamie Green, who's gone quickest through that particular sector. But anyway, that's all academic Jamie Green running down there at the moment. Now, factor this in. The last lap, Marco Wittmann then, a 1:50.519, which is the fastest lap of the race. René Rast a 1:50.658, but Nico Müller a 1:50.557. So Nico Müller is quicker than René currently, but Nico is some 5.5 seconds down on René Rast as Pietro Fittipaldi runs really wide, just manages to put himself back out onto the track ahead of Timo Glock, but Timo will take his chance here and dive up the inside of Pietro Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi carrying the speed though and holding on to it. Timo Glock goes for another go, but now Timo gets the switch back look and does go through. So, although Pietro Fittipaldi's not taking it lying down, he's coming back at him. So some great action that we've seen Timo Glock involved in, and he moves himself up into P5 now. So both Philipp Eng and Timo Glock, and of course our race leader Marco Wittmann, the BMW, is looking pretty good here. Nico Müller has just done a 41.8, and compare that to Marco Wittmann, a 42.9 through that sector. Nico Müller, he really is on a charge here. The car is really coming to him. We've got 25 minutes plus 1 lap of the race remaining. We're on board with Paul de Resta. Now here, to my mind, that looks like his wiper's come off, because it looks like the arm is there, and sure enough, in replay, well, that in these conditions, I mean, when your luck goes, it really does go, doesn't it? So Paul de Resta has got no wiper. So if visibility was not challenging enough already, poor Paul de Resta, for the sake of a 50 pence wiper blade, has had his race pretty ruined, I would suggest. Here's the man on the charge then, Nico Müller then. Last lap around, Wittmann a 1:49.8. A black and white flag for René Rast leaving the track. Perhaps we'll see that in replay, because we didn't see that. We didn't see that. This is Joel Eriksson coming into the pit lane then. So Eriksson in for his mandatory stop, which means of those cars running, those that have not stopped yet are Wittmann, Rast, Müller, Eng, Glock, and Fittipaldi. And Rast is exactly 2 seconds behind Marco Wittmann. The man that's chasing down, and the man that is closing the gap is Nico Müller. Now, my money suggests that they're going to probably bring Nico Müller in sooner rather than later. Would that make sense? Of course it would. They would try to advantage him by bringing him in ahead of Rast and Wittmann, I would have thought. Let's see how it plays out, because we are into the 23.5 minutes plus a lap to run. So Joel Eriksson out then ahead of Jonathan Aberdeen. So you can gain time on fresh tyres, lose time on colder tyres, of course, but okay, let's see how it plays out here. So Joel Eriksson then, and there you can see Jonathan Aberdeen going through on Joel Eriksson. Fittipaldi being shown the black and white flag as well for leaving the track and gaining an advantage for so doing. Paul de Resta is doing a magnificent job here in being able to drive that car and not see anything. Has to be said, it looks an absolute handful. In comes Rast.
Same pressures, 15 laps.
In comes René Rast then. So there was me saying I thought they would bring Müller in early. What they've done, they've brought René Rast in. Now he was 2 seconds behind. They need a really quick stop.
7.2 was about 2 and 1.
7.2 was not the quickest we've seen. So now that Rast has been in, my guess is that they're not going to be long in bringing Marco Wittmann in. So Rast returns then, having been in for his mandatory pit stop. Here is Loic Duval, who of course was in earlier on. So Rast has been in. That leaves Wittmann, Müller, Eng, Glock, and Fittipaldi still to come in with 21 3/4 minutes of this race remaining. Marco Wittmann still leading the race then. The two-time DTM champion put the car on pole position, of course, at the beginning of the day with that qualifying session, which was in the dry, as Sheldon van der Linde here is really troubling Robin Frijns. This is for P12 as Sheldon goes to the inside, but that becomes the outside, which Robin has, and Sheldon trying to go all the way around. And there is the spray coming off the back of the Robin Frijns car. In comes Wittmann.
Copy, pit stop light, stay on the brakes, brake balance to the rear.
So exactly as I predicted then. Once René came in, they've got to bring Wittmann in. Nico Müller now staying out there. Now, his tyres, of course, are well up to temperature. And is he now going to set the fastest laps that he possibly can? So
watch
Wittmann,
the white line, watch the white line.
On his way out now.
Traffic with Duval. Afterwards, good gap. Then Rast is approaching. Rast is quick.
So Wittmann is being warned. Where's René Rast now as he's just about to start the start-finish straight? Here comes Marco Wittmann. There is René Rast to the top right-hand corner of your picture. So Marco Wittmann now will give it everything he can to try and control this car in challenging conditions. René Rast knows now is the time. If he's going to pounce, he's got to pounce now. But I don't think it's anything like close enough to be able to do so. And I think Wittmann, he will be so vigorous on that car in terms of trying to generate temperature that I don't think René is going to get close enough. Where he runs very wide there, but so too does René in his quest to get on terms with Marco Wittmann. He can see the target ahead of him. Look at Wittmann from side to side, trying to burn some temperature. Through the chicane, René taking more curb than Marco Wittmann in his quest to get up there. And Nico Müller, of course, he is leading the race, but the order is Müller, then Glock and Fittipaldi, but bear in mind those four have yet to stop. Nico Müller could be the big winner here potentially in terms of the time that he will be able to claw back through stopping later, potentially. We've got 20 minutes of the race remaining, plus a lap. Well, 19 minutes plus a lap if you want to be pedantic over it. So Wittmann and Rast, and for my money, that worked well for Wittmann. The rain is getting a bit lighter, so the laps are quicker than 10 minutes ago, that's for sure. And you can see that in the lap times because we're now seeing 1:47.0s, and that came from Timo Glock. So we're on board with René Rast through the chicane, just saw a flash of lightning, and now he is within sight of Marco Wittmann. 0.6 is the margin between the two of them. Rast really closes into turn number 1. Well, the sky is getting darker. We saw a flash of lightning. Here comes René Rast like a flash. To the inside of Marco Wittmann, will he go? Not quite enough room for him to be able to do it. He takes a look at the outside now. Marco Wittmann makes his BMW twice as wide as it is to deny René Rast. Side by side they went. Great defending by Marco Wittmann. Look who's continuing to weave to try and get some temperature and some grip. René knows he's vulnerable and he's trying to take advantage of that. So Wittmann against Rast, and at the moment Wittmann is able to head the Audi. His BMW is the effective leader. I know it's showing us P4 and P5 this battle, but do bear in mind that on the left-hand side of your screen on the graphics, the top 3 have yet to come in for their mandatory stop. Incidentally, Nico Müller has just done a 1:46.4, so he is the quickest man out there, but he has got to stop. Now compare that to Rast on a 1:48. So Müller is doing exactly as we expected and putting in some very, very fast laps, and he'll leave his pit stop presumably till the very end. So Rast absolutely punishing that Audi then to try and have a go at Marco Wittmann, but wherever René has put the car to try and overtake, Marco has been wise to it, and Marco has defended and denied René. So into turn 1 again they go. Both of them run just a little bit wide. They kiss the apex of that turn, and now Rast again takes a look at the outside. Marco then makes it difficult by running wide. So a real fight going on between two supreme drivers here. Look at this, Wittmann really hugging the outside. He could see where René was going to put the car, and just where René wanted to have a go to put himself alongside Marco, he made sure that that gap was not available to him. So in the places where René looks a little bit stronger than Marco, Marco is wise to where he's going to have a go. So we're into the final 15 minutes of the race, plus a lap, as near as makes no difference. And still, whatever René throws at this Marco Wittmann car, nothing is troubling him currently. Here comes Nico Muller then. Nico Muller's last lap was a 1:46.7. Glock is the quickest of them all, though, with a 1:46.2. Just done the fastest lap of the race. He's running in P3, but of course that will not be P3 when he comes in for his stop. So as I said, the clouds seem to be thickening and the whole skyline is darkening somewhat. Whether we're going to get another burst of heavy rain remains to be seen. So this final chicane sequence then, and it's from here on in, the first sector almost, where Rene is looking stronger than Marco. And, well, let's see. Rene, this time, the back end of the car just spat out a little bit, and that meant that he's not as close to Marco now as he was on the previous lap. So there is Marco taking a wide line through that turn, right in the middle of the track, to deny Rene any opportunity to get close. And of course, the more these two are fighting, the more this is playing into the hands of Nico Muller, who is lapping very quickly, is banking good lap times, and is 2 seconds quicker than these two. Because the more these two fight, they're holding each other up. And this, Nico Muller will rub his hands with invisible soap, because it is potentially offering him the opportunity that when he takes his mandatory stop to come out and be in with a fighting chance of a race win here. So Nico Muller staying out, the number 51 car engineered by Abt Sportsline. Nico already a race winner this year, having taken the win in race 2 in Misano. So let's look at the live time between himself and Marco Wittmann. It was 39.846. As you can see, we're running the clock on the Nico Muller car. 39.846 was the margin. And what is it now? So as Wittmann continues to be chased by Rast. So 39.846 it was. And it now becomes 40.895. As I expected, the race distance has been increased to 55 minutes plus 3 laps because of that safety car intervention. That's where the sky looks really dark. Now, let me give you the lap times here. Last time around for Nico Muller, a 1:46.224. Last time around for Marco Wittmann, a 1:47.273. Rast was quicker, a 1:47.065. But Rast gets so close to Wittmann now. These two are inevitably slowing each other. And if Muller pits now, would have a 6.8 second advantage. But of course, he would need to generate temperature into those tyres. But, for my reckoning, they're going to keep Muller out for longer. I believe they'll run Nico to almost as long as they can before bringing him in, because these two are continuing to fight tooth and nail. Robin Frijns then puts himself to the inside of the Pietro Fittipaldi car, where there's a little touch there. As Pietro Fittipaldi ran wide, Robin Frijns then, local driver of course, who manages to put himself ahead of the Fittipaldi car and pick up that P10 position. Just seen on the screen that Philipp has come into the pit lane.
Warm up the tire. Pit stop light, white line, and remember you can use push to pass. You can use push to pass.
That means the only two drivers
Copy, push to pass.
left to stop as Robin Frijns is off, and that's quite a bit of damage to the Robin Frijns car.
Yellow T9.
So significant damage to the back end of the Robin Frijns car. I was just going to say then, the only two cars left to stop are Muller and Glock. Look at that. Now there's going to be bits and pieces falling off that car, I would suggest, and this is how it happened then. Well, to be fair, he was completely on his own. Big contact, and basically what he did, he got onto the curbs and the painted part, which is always much slipperier. And Robin just lost the back end of the car. He's back out on the track, but he's going to have to pit that car, and that's going to be game over, I would suggest, for Robin Frijns. What a shame. The team had worked so hard to get that car out in the race because of the oil problem earlier on. And now he's out of the race. Just putting one wheel on the painted section. It's so dodgy and dangerous. Here comes Rast then, continuing to chase down the car of Marco Wittmann. But wherever he has tried, he's failed to get past, and sadly that is a retirement for Robin Frijns. Timo Glock has come into the pit lane now. And this once again is just a good indication how the visibility is really difficult as we look back. Oh! And live on board with that and into... That's the replay of Robin Frijns.
Hey, where are we in position?
Oof. Just for a moment, I thought we were live. That was
P7, I think.
The replay of Robin Frijns going onto the painted section and into the tyres. I need a glass of water after that. Right. Fastest lap from Nico Müller. This is reinforcing what we were saying, that Nico Müller is really doing a very good job. The strategy the team have applied to Nico Müller is paying dividends currently. We've got 9 minutes of race duration remaining, plus 3 laps now, which has been increased because of that safety car intervention. And the big problem is here has been the fact that Wittmann and Rast have been falling over each other almost, and slowing each other down, which has just played into the hands nicely of Nico Müller. So Wittmann now has got, what, a second on Rast, and that's because tyres up to temperature now, he was able to put in a 146.4 compared to Rast's 146.7. So he's just beginning to increase the margin between himself and Rast. Is that game over for that fight? Potentially so. A 145.746 though for the last lap from Nico Müller, and reinforcing, as I said, that he's staying out right until the very later stages of this race as Philipp tries to control the car. Still extraordinarily challenging. Nico Müller accelerates away. The rain has reduced in its intensity and it is quite light now. And of course, the other thing to bear in mind here, René Rast is, he's fighting a car ahead of him which he can't see because of the spray. Nico Müller has got a clear track ahead of him, which is what is enabling him to deliver those lap times, because his visibility is not compromised at all. So Nico Müller then in the number 51 car, looking good for him here. You can see the gap between Nico Müller and Marco Wittmann over the last 3 laps, down to 41.745 seconds now. Now, is there a question that the early stoppers might really push their tyres? Well, the man's luck goes from bad to worse with regards to his performance in DTM. Such a great shame. Robin Frijns out of this race. Let's hear from him now.
I'm now here with a man who is having his home race here, and his bad luck is just getting worse and worse. Robin, what a terrible day for you. I mean, sum it up. How devastating is it?
Yeah, almost saying like you get used to it. I'm only having issues. I'm not blaming anyone. It's just things that break down, or it only happens on my car. Also in qualifying, yesterday I showed I was quickest, and you go into qualifying and an oil leak, and you have all the oil in the tires. You have no grip. So the boys work very hard to get the car fixed, which I'm very proud of. And then you're driving in the back. You don't see anything. You're also losing some engine power. You tried your best, and then things go wrong.
You have a lot of support here in the Netherlands, so let's hope they're going to bring you luck tomorrow, okay?
Well, I just need no technical issues, then I'll be fine.
All right, thank you so much, Robin, and back to you.
I was speaking to Robin last night, and sure enough, he feels he's had more than his fair share of bad luck. Whilst Verena was talking to Robin Frijns, we saw Timo Glock in a real ding-dong battle with Philipp So this is Nico Müller, who our focus is on now. Philipp incidentally has just done a very, very quick sector. So René Rast then, who's beginning to see the target of Marco Wittmann slip away from him. And there is René Rast then. Now, bear in mind, Nico Müller is still to stop. It's down 42.1, the margin between Nico Müller and Marco Wittmann currently. So, Wittmann to René Rast then, 1.4, 1.7 in. Now comes
Copy Nico. It will be
Müller.
6 laps to go. We are virtually leading the race. You will come out 3 to 4 seconds in front of Wittmann and Rast. Try to switch on your tires as quick as possible. Then we fight for the win. 6 laps to go.
This is going to be game on. Of course, the team need to deliver the absolutely perfect pit stop for Nico Müller. We run the clock on, and we're looking for a sort of 6.2 time. Oh, it's not quite as good as we have
Push
seen.
to pass unrestricted, but you will be the leader.
7.2. Right, we see Nico coming down. Here comes into the chicane Marco Wittmann. This is going to be the fight for the lead of the race. Nico Müller really needs to drive some energy into those tyres to get them up to temperature, because here comes Marco Wittmann and René Rast. Nico Müller is out of the pit lane now. This is the fight for the lead in the race. Is it going to be Audi? Is it going to be BMW? Marco Wittmann's tyres, of course, completely up to temperature. Nico Müller nursing that car around the first sequence of turns as he tries to weave the temperature into those tyres. There is Nico Müller. So he is the virtual leader. He's got some understeer, as you can see. That makes him slow. Marco Wittmann goes around the outside of the turn, as does René Rast, because, of course, they're on wet weather tyres. They're looking for the wettest part of the track to keep the tyres in the operating window. You're seeing lines that you wouldn't necessarily see if the weather conditions were dry. As Wittmann now tries to reel in the Audi driver Nico Müller. He knows he needs to do this on this lap. It's got to be this lap, because beyond it, Müller will have put enough temperature into those tyres, and he should be able to be returning the lap to the lap times that he was doing prior to the pit stop. But here comes Wittmann now. You can see there's hardly any spray coming off the car now. Nico Müller will try and make the Audi as wide as possible. Of course, he will want to try and keep in the lead of this race, but it's going to be made so difficult. Marco Wittmann does go through. It's not to say it's all over yet, because once Müller has got his temperatures up to tyres up to temperature, he will try again. He's going to have unrestricted push to pass available to him. So we've got 2 3/4 minutes of the race left, plus 3 laps. So Marco Wittmann then, stealth-like, crept up on Nico Müller and got past him. René Rast now, he has Nico Müller ahead of him. So these are the 1, 2, 3 then. It is Marco Wittmann. Nico Müller P2, René Rast P3. Rast gets ever closer to Nico Müller. So Wittmann's quest from pole position to win the race is 2 minutes and 3 laps away. So what have we got here? René Rast takes a look at the outside of Nico Müller to try and come back on the inside, but he's not close enough to be able to do that. So Nico now, the temperature into those tyres should be superior, but under braking, look at this. René Rast really able to close onto the back of Nico Müller's car through that chicane. And, of course, René Rast is championship leader. The more points that he can bag, this is why P2. And you can see how frustrated René is in the car, because he kind of wants Nico just to let him through. And that has not happened. So Nico Müller then is certainly, from what we can see now, doesn't look like he's going to be able to chase down Marco Wittmann. Thomas Biermeier then on the pit wall. And of course, Nico, now with the tyres up to temperature, has got the benefit of brand new tyres, whereas René's tyres are significantly older. But you could just see from the hand gestures from René Rast that he just expected Nico to indicate left and let him go through. 4 laps remaining in this DTM race 1 of 2 here in the Netherlands. We're live from Assen, and Marco Wittmann is leading the race by a margin of 3.4 seconds over Nico Müller, who in turn is 8 tenths ahead of René Rast. Running in P4 is Philipp Eng, then it's Timo Glock, Jonathan Aberdeen, Jamie Green, Loic Duval, Mike Rockenfeller, and Pietro Fittipaldi running in P10. So the order remains as it is. I think the team of Nico Müller were right in terms of their strategy. And now you can see that Nico Müller is pulling away from René Rast. It was 8 tenths the margin between the two of them. He's, of course, on fresher rubber. Arno Zenzen, who is the team principal from Audi Sport Team Rosberg, and therefore is responsible for the René Rast car. Nico Müller running for the Abt Sportsline team, Thomas Biermeier. So a real inter-Audi battle going on for P2, P3, and of course René leading the championship charge. And the rain has virtually stopped. The umbrellas have come down. There's no spray from any of the cars, so visibility is not compromised. And I have to say, whilst we don't see him on screen, a big up to Paul Di Resta, who managed to drive that car with no wiper for countless laps, and he's still out there running in P15. So well done, Paul. Great driving in very challenging conditions. So 3 laps to go then. Incidentally, Di Resta has just got past Bruno Spengler, so well done, Paul. The windscreen will be scratched up goodness knows what now with the wiper arm just laying on it, but there we are. So René Rast then looks like he is settling for P3 here, doesn't it? Which is not what he would have wanted. Nico Müller will advance to P2, and Marco Wittmann, the way it looks at the moment, he's going to look untroubled because the margin is 3.8, and Nico Müller has put another couple of tenths on the René Rast gap as well. So proving that the fresher tyres of Nico Müller, as he just puts in a 40.4 sector time, which is the fastest of anyone in the race. I mean, he's too far back from Marco Wittmann now, I would suggest, unless Marco makes a horrific mistake, which he's not known for doing. It's going to take something like that for Nico to get on terms with him, but I think in terms of his P2 position, he looks relatively safe now because René is not able to challenge him at all. So there is Nico Müller running in that P2 and leaving René Rast in his wake, truthfully. So Wittmann then into the final sequence of turns. And here comes Nico Müller. Taking more curb now than ever before because the conditions are such that you can afford to do that. And with 2 laps left to go, the gap between Marco Wittmann and Nico Müller is 3.6, but Nico has just put in a 1:44.7, which is a couple of tenths quicker than Marco Wittmann, but a couple of tenths is just not enough. It's going to take a mistake from Marco Wittmann, and as I say, he's not someone that's renowned for making mistakes, truthfully. Fastest lap then from Nico Müller, a 1:44.742, as we've just said in the number 51 car, as Philipp Eng and Timo Glock are fighting over this P4 place. Philipp Eng is P4 at the moment, Timo Glock is P5. Timo has been involved in a lot of the action this afternoon in this race. We're into the final 2 laps. And Timo chasing down his BMW brand mate Philipp Eng for that P4 position. The gap between Wittmann and Müller down to 3.6 seconds, but with just one more lap when they complete this one to do, Wittmann has probably done enough. So from the helicopter then we could see the Philipp Eng Timo Glock battle. Here comes Nico Müller really chasing Marco Wittmann, but as I say, unless unless there is a torrid mistake from Marco Wittmann. The pace advantage that Nico Müller has is just not sufficient, so he will cross the timing line now. Marco Wittmann for the last lap, and he does a 1:44.6. Nico does a 1:44.5. So despite best efforts, Nico, I don't think, is going to get on terms with Marco Wittmann. There you can see how the margin has gone from 3.8 to 3.6 to 3.5. But 3.5 is a huge gap. And to try and get that in a lap is going to be too much. However, Philipp is having to defend for all he's worth against Timo Glock. And Timo just taking a look at the inside. You can see the lines that the drivers are using have changed because of the conditions that have changed as the race has evolved. And this is the fight for P4 that we're watching between the two BMW drivers, Philipp and Timo Glock. And this, though, is the best of the BMW drivers. Marco Wittmann put the car pole position. And where we thought he may be vulnerable following the pit stop for Nico Müller, he did manage to get past Nico and has held it together really rather well and has not looked threatened. He's had René Rast on the back bumper of his car for an awful lot of the race, and whilst he defended very, very hard, he can defend, and it's exactly his right to do so, and he defended, and Marco Wittmann then will head through this chicane and head towards the checkered flag, and it's his third win in the season.
Yeah, guys, thank you for such a stunning car in quali and race. What a Saturday, full points.
Indeed, full points took...
Amazing job, Marco. Congratulations, third win of the season.
Max points, of course, from
Thank
qualifying.
You, guys. You gave me such a good car from quali today. Race pace was great. Thank you, guys. Good strategy. 28 points. That's good.
25 points for the win, 3 points
yes, thank you as well. Perfect Saturday. So, like usual, save fuel, activate the screen heating, that is anyway on, okay. Do the power steering lock in the park for me, collect the USB stick and put in the steering wheel, and like usual, park for me is under the podium. Then turn off the car completely, the ignition main, and get rated. See you at the podium. Really good job.
That small novel from the engineer there to Marco Wittmann to remind him of all his tasks and do the washing up as well. Marco Wittmann, Nico Müller, René Rast. Marco Wittmann then a winner of race 9. What a good job he did. Nico Müller P2, René Rast P3. Eng stayed ahead of Timo Glock for P4 and P5. Then it was Jonathan Aberdeen, Jamie Green. Then it was Duval, and Van der Linde took Fittipaldi for the final point on the last lap. So well done, Sheldon Van der Linde. So in the driver's standings, 145 points for René Rast, 121 points for Nico Müller, Philipp Eng on 111, and Marco Wittmann then on 100 points. So you can see why Nico Müller was not too keen on just inviting René Rast to go by. He, of course, is in the championship chase as well. As Marco Wittmann then slows and will head towards the pit lane. And in replay then, him heading towards the checkered flag, taking more curb than he'd done on the previous laps. And there received the checkered flag and took the win. His last win was Misano, race 1. Before that, of course, the opening round of the season. So the team absolutely delighted that Marco Wittmann wins here in Assen. That's a nice shot as the checkered flag falls. Marco Wittmann secures the victory. Stefan Reinheld there very pleased, and the engineering team, of course, also delighted. You could tell how happy Marco was with the car. Said it was faultless for qualifying and faultless in the race also. Well, the spectators have been actually treated to quite a dramatic race, really. Not always a given when the weather conditions are so challenging. And there the cars line up then in Parc Fermé, and of course the drivers will be ushered off to be weighed and then up to the podium. So Marco exits the car. And the cheers erupt as he stands atop it. And to be weighed. And there, I know his family's here this weekend. I've seen them, and sort of reverse surf there and jump into the crowd. It was very impressive, Mark. Just listening in to try and hear some of the conversation. However, not a lot of it to be heard. Aerial shot from the heli then of this fantastic Assen circuit. And here, confirmation of the result then. Taking the win, Marco Wittmann. P2, Nico Müller. P3, René Rast. Then it was Philipp and Timo Glock, ahead of Jonathan Aberdeen, Jamie Green, Loic Duval, Mike Rockenfeller, and Sheldon van der Linde, rounding out the top 10 in race 9 of 18. Another race to come here in Assen, of course, tomorrow, where we're expecting the weather conditions to be somewhat different to those that we have seen today. Taking P11, Pietro Fittipaldi, Jake Dennis, P12, then it was Ferdinand Habsburg, Paul de Resta, Bruno Spengler, and Joel Eriksson, and of course we lost Robin Frijns and Daniel Juncadella. And we indulge Marco's celebration once again. And that, look, he sort of spun before he surfed. Yeah, quite good. I'm not sure if he's been practicing that. I'll ask him. So there, the congratulations. Drivers pose for the photographs then. Marco Wittmann centre. To the left is Nico Müller. To the right-hand side is René Rast. They'll be ushered off to the podium for the podium celebrations, of course. And there is a very happy Marco Wittmann then. And let's hear from René Rast now, who gets P3.
So I'm here with the man who secured P3. René, it's your 6th podium of the season, and you're also still leading the championship. So are you pretty happy with the P3?
Yeah, good point for the championship. That's how you collect points for the championship. Even though it wasn't the best race, still finishing on the podium is, I think, quite good. So important point for the championship, and now looking forward to tomorrow.
Out of curiosity, we saw you gesturing with your hand when all of a sudden Nico Müller was there. Were you kind of hoping he'd let you go by?
No, I mean, I was hauled up by Marco basically all race long, and he was in free air all the time. And when he came out of the pit with cold tires, he was holding me up for a few corners. So I hoped I could get a run on Marco again. But in the end, obviously he pitted later, his tires were fresher, so he kept it in front of me.
You did a great job. We saw some amazing battles. So thank you very much. Congratulations to P3 and to the commentator.
Yes, we did see some great battles. And in replay then, this was Ferdinand Habsburg and Joel Eriksson getting very physical there at the chicane. So seeing that in replay. Here, this extraordinary Assen circuit then unfolds from our helicopter images. You see just how many people are here to enjoy the race action here at Assen, and well, even in really challenging weather conditions, we've seen quite a dramatic race. And in the driver's standings then, René Rast now on 145 points, Nico Müller is on 121 and Philipp on 111. That's the way it looks at the moment, with Wittmann on 100 points exactly. Still plenty of racing to come, of course, because it's race 9 of 18. So a lot of racing still to come, and a lot to play for yet. So to the right hand side of your picture is René Rast. You can see Nico Müller and Marco Wittmann in the picture as well. And Ollie Sittler then is going to bring the drivers out onto the podium. So to the top step of the podium goes Marco Wittmann. Nico Müller, P2. And René Rast then, P3. Team represented up there on the podium as well. The RMG team engineering for Marco Wittmann. And a time for the national anthem to play out. So the anthem plays out then. Dietrich looking on for BMW. And here comes the trophy presentation. What magnificent trophies they are. And Marco Wittmann receives his from Mr. Henk Brink, the Governor of Sports of the province, making that trophy presentation to Marco Wittmann. And the Constructors' Trophy as well.
The trophy for Nico Müller, our second place driver.
And Mr. Tom Kristensen, former DTM driver, and of course Mr. Le Mans, making the trophy presentation to Nico Müller for P2. And now, Mr. Julius Brink, the Olympic winner of beach volleyball, making the trophy presentation to René Rast. They are magnificent trophies, and the drivers will all hold them together now for the photographs to be taken. So time for the champagne then. And as if the drivers were not wet enough following that wet race, they get plenty of champagne. Of course, we're expecting the weather conditions to be altogether different for tomorrow here at Assen. So Marco Wittmann, our race winner, Nico Müller P2, René Rast P3, and the podium for race 1 of 2 across this weekend, done and dusted. So dramatic race then started behind the safety car because of the really challenging weather conditions. At one point, not only did we have rain, but we had hail as well. And a super slow-mo of Marco Wittmann then with the champagne. And ironically, the weather beginning to break a bit now. I can just see some blue sky between the clouds from our commentary position in the pit lane. Or just above the pit lane, I should say. Good images there, that's for sure. So Wittmann, Müller, Rast, the top 3. Then Philipp Eng, Timo Glock, Jonathan Aberdeen, Jamie Green, Lloyd Duval, Mike Rockefeller and Sheldon van der Linde rounding out the top 10. Let's go down to Verena now, who I suspect is on the podium somewhere.
What a fantastic comeback after Norisring. Marco Wittmann, you did a phenomenal job from P1 to victory. Fantastic. You had René Rast all the way behind you, breathing down your neck. Then Müller out of the sudden, but you managed to overtake him. So how emotional was the race and how excited are you to actually have secured victory?
Yeah, you said it quite well. What a comeback, to be honest. Norisring was quite hard for me on my home soil to have such a difficult weekend, and now to come back with pole and win full points on Saturday is really great. And the conditions were pretty tricky, I have to say. I mean, first time in the wet conditions here in Assen, and then directly into the race like that. But I think we had a good pace. I have to say the Audi were quite strong in the early stage always, after pit stop or at the beginning after the restart. And then I always could make a little gap, a breathing gap, but at the end, yeah, a win is great.
You did a great job. Thank you so much, Marco. Back to the commentator.
He did do a good job, managed it absolutely perfectly. And that was that brilliant moment we saw in Parc Fermé. That'll get repeated a few times. As he said, he's had to pick everything up after his disappointment at the Norisring, which indeed is a home race weekend. He lives in Fürth, just outside Nuremberg, which of course is home to the Norisring. So, picked himself up very nicely. Max points for Saturday. 3 points for pole position in qualifying, and then taking the full 25 points for the race win too. So, Marco Wittmann really has maxed out. Some great shots here that we took during the course of the racing. And there you can see the Jamie Green car, but this is the car that mattered. The car that won the race, the number 11 BMW of Marco Wittmann. Chased for a lot of the race by René Rast, as he indicated, and just felt that the BMW had the pace. Timo Glock, he finished the race P5. And this was a sideways moment as he took some of the painted curves. And Timo Glock entertained us during the course of the race. And that's how Marco felt atop the car then, as he celebrated that race win. So Marco Wittmann then a race winner. P2, Nico Müller with Verena.
Here I am with a man who came from P6 to P2, Nico Müller. What a fantastic race. And I mean, your strategies seemed to be so good. You were leading the race, but in the end, I guess your tires were still cold, but you must be happy with a P2, right?
Yeah, I have to say satisfied probably is the right word. Happy is kind of different, but no, I mean, coming from P6 to score a P2 is probably the best we could do today, although we obviously hoped to take home the win. When I got the info that we were about 3 seconds ahead after the pit stops, I was like, oh, maybe we can survive, but the cold tires just took too long to really survive and to keep the lead. So, yeah, I think Marco did a faultless job today, so he deserved that win, and I think we can all only congratulate him for that and try to beat him again tomorrow.
For us all, it was the first time in Assen, and it's a pretty tricky circuit. And then on top, the terrible weather. I mean, talk us through it. For us viewers, it really looked like it was a jungle out there.
It was definitely tricky, especially the beginning of the race. There was a lot of water on track, and the rain kept on coming down for, I don't know, the first 15-20 minutes. And yeah, we really had very poor grip. It was super tricky to switch the tires on, even behind the safety car. And no, it was tough, but enjoyable. The car felt very good. The balance was where I needed it to be, so the team did a very good job again, and yeah, I think we we didn't do the big mistakes that could have cost us a good result today, and had good pace until the end, and I think that's what we'll take.
From P6 to P2, I think that's a fantastic job. And who knows what tomorrow brings? Tomorrow is going to be different weather, that's for sure. More summer, so let's see. It's going to be exciting. So now here are the highlights of today. Enjoy and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.